He is a person who has made a mistake. He has made a wrong, and the reason why is that he has not taken the necessary means to purify the self and the ego that he has in him.
وعلى أساس هذه القاعدة استمر الصراع بين الخير والشر جيلا بعد جيل، وفي التوراة وفي الإنجيل وفي القرآن أخبار داود عليه السلام والمعارك التي خاضها وسالت فيها الدماء من أجل أن ينصر الخير على الشر، أخبار طالوت عندما قتل جالوت والقتل إراقة للدماء، لكن المنطلق هنا نصرة الحق وبأسلوب صحيح. هذين مسألتان، نصرة الحق وبأسلوب صحيح. الصراع بين الحق والباطل ولو حتى يصل إلى الدم موجود في التوراة والإنجيل والقرآن، فهو مجمع عليه عند أهل الديانات السماوية. داود قاتل، طالوت قاتل، الأنبياء والصالحون خاضوا المعارك وأسالوا الدماء، لكن بأمرين يقابلان الأمرين الآخرين اللذين على أساسهما قام الشر.
So we have here, we realize that in the Torah, and in the Gospel, and in the Bible in general, and in the Quran, we have the stories of David and Saul and Goliath. We have all of these stories of the prophets in the Old Testament and mentioned in the Quran and all the prophetic traditions of them actually going into battles, because the good and the evil have been passed down from generation to generation, and it's not something that has left the human condition. Evil is always there, it is still there. And prophets of old, and we read, and even today, but prophets of old, we have read their stories of how they have gone into battle and blood was spilt over these causes of good and evil and the fight between them. But the difference is between the good and the evil is that the people of good, they always are based upon two principles, is that they give victory to truth, that they're not fighting for mere passion, revenge, vengeance, or evil. They give victory to truth, and they do it with a correct methodology, an appropriate methodology, not just giving victory to the truth by doing it any way they want.
قلنا قبل قليل أن الشر الأصل الذي انطلق منه والسبب الذي انطلق منه خطأ، والأسلوب الذي تعامل به خطأ، ولا يصح أن نرى أن مقابلة الشر ومدافعته مجاهدته ولو إلى حد القتال يكون مقبولا أو صحيحا إلا إذا اتفق أو تحصل فيه أمران يقابلان منطلق الشر. المنطلق أو الأصل أن يكون صحيحا، والوسيلة والأسلوب تكون صحيحة.
So we have two things here that we discussed before. We discussed the cause and the method that evil is manifested. So we have the cause of evil, originally originating from the devil and spreading out through mankind. Then we have the method in which human beings decide then on their own on how to implement this evil. We have these two sides. And so the difference between good and evil and how it manifests is that good has an appropriate method and a correct cause, or the way that it is manifested is to give victory to what is right, good, and true with a right and good method, not just any way that we feel.
وعندنا حالتين بين هاتين الحالتين بين الخير والشر، أحدهما أن يكون المنطلق شرا كمثل حالة الشر لكن الأسلوب محترما، أي أنصر الشر بأسلوب محترم مجنن لا ألام عليه.
So and he said, and now there's also between these two extremes of good and evil, on the one side we have, remember, the good reason and the good method. On the other side you have a bad reason and a bad method. Now in between these two extremes we also have two states in between. The first state is, you have something that is evil, but it is presented and the methodology that is used is something that is generally accepted and respected in the eyes of people. The method is accepted and respected, but the goal and purpose is evil in itself, but people can't tell.
كالذي يسلب حق الغير ولكن طريقة السلب أو السرقة أو الأخذ لحق الغير مالا كان أو أرضا أو حياة لا يفعل ذلك إلا بأسلوب قانوني صحيح لا يستطيع أحد أن يحاسبه عليه. أنتم تجمعون معي أن هذا من صف الشر.
So, for instance, we have someone that's going to, for instance, embezzle money or steal some type of wealth or something. And then you see him following the outward rules and following the outward laws and using a nice manner and etiquette and character on the outside, but really he's reaching down into your pocket and stealing from you at the same time, even though it looks like he's following the rules. He said, and a lot of us can have sympathy for this with all the stuff that's been happening with certain companies, right? So they look like everything's okay and they follow the rules, but really they're reaching into your pocket and stealing from you. So he said, we will all agree, you all agree with me, that this is evil, even though it looks on the outside to be something acceptable.
هل يوجد أحد عنده رأي آخر يعتقد فيه أن هذا الفعل ليس بشر لأنه جاء بأسلوب مجنن؟
So, does anyone disagree? Does anyone have a different opinion about this? That if something looks good and it's apparently following the rules, but it's evil in reality, does anyone agree with that is an evil? Does anyone disagree?
أحد منكم يعتقد أن أحدا إذا جاء وسرق من شنطته ماله بطريقة لا يؤاخذه فيها القانون، لا يخلف دليلا يمسكه به القانون، وإن أعفاه القانون واعتبره القانون بريئا، هل أحد منكم يتفق مع القانون بأنه بريء؟
Now, the question arises, what if somebody comes and steals something from you personally? Someone comes to you personally and steals from you, but in a way that there's no way for the law to catch him. There's no way for the current law that is out there to catch him, but he still gets away from with stealing this thing or item or whatever it may be from you. Would you agree then that this is also something evil?
وأيضا هناك نوع آخر بين الخير والشر وهو صاحب المنطلق الصحيح والمدافع عن الخير لكنه استخدم أسلوبا غير صحيح وغير مقبول في مبادئ الخير لمحاولة أخذ حقه أو محاولة نصرة الخير وهذا أيضا إلى الشر أقرب.
And so he says now, remember how we said we have the extreme of good and the extreme of evil, or the two sides, and then we have two in between them. The other one is, the first one we mentioned, that someone does something evil but in an apparently good or respected way. The other side is that someone has a good intention and a good reason to do this thing, but the means that he uses is wrong or is evil. We would also agree that this is closer to the side of evil because we have a statement. Because when you have something, a good intention, if you do it in the wrong way, it's still not acceptable.
أقرب إلى الشر.
It's closer to being evil than anything else.
كان هناك صديقان أحدهما وكلاهما اجتمع على حب التراث، على حب الأشياء التقليدية، طريقة الأكل، المسكن، المشي، يحبان استخدام الخيول بدلا من السيارات، ويحبان استخدام السفر القديمة التي كانت من القرون الوسطى. عندهم عشق للآثار، وإلى هذا الحد فالأمر طيب، والكثير منا يتفق على احترامه أنه إنسان يعشق الآثار.
So we have a story here of two friends that they love very customary or traditional forms of culture. They like traditional and ancient forms of culture. For instance, they agree and they like, for instance, to ride horses instead of riding in cars. They prefer things that are old and traditional and of ancient cultures. And this is nothing wrong that we as human beings can look at this and respect this desire and like that they have.
وبمعنى أوضح أيضا كان يحبان الطبيعة.
And in something to make it even more clear, that these people